Sue, your thoughts? Dallas Wings secure the number 1 spot in what essentially is the, as you said, Paige Bueckers sweepstakes.
You said that.
I said that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was so good. I just didn't know where it came from. It's so weird. Welcome back, everybody, to A Touch More. We have so much to talk about.
As per usual.
This week. Yeah, that's true. We do usually have a lot to talk about. Sue, our very own, is going into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, headlining the class of 2025.
You ready to go to Knoxville? We're headed
go.
there in June. No, I'm super excited.
Get my burnt orange out.
No, you won't.
No, regular orange.
Well,
Burnt orange is Hook'ems.
Yeah, but
Texas.
neither. You'll be getting neither out.
I'll be getting my navy blue out.
We will be going. Yeah, only navy blue. We will be going to Knoxville. Yeah, I'm super excited. I feel like going into the Hall of Fame, a lot of it is who you go in with. And so I'm really excited that it's Elena Beard, Sylvia Faust, Cassie Pondexter, 3 players that I obviously played against for so long, but I also played with on many, many teams.
I was going to ask, have you played with all of them?
Dope. Played with all of them.
Where did you play with Elena? I don't remember hearing all these stories. I remember Cappy and Sylvia stories.
Yeah, so I played with Sil and Cappy and Elena on the national team. Elena was on the 2006 World Cup team. So AB and I go way back. And then the other 2, well, Sylvia I played in Russia with.
I know, I remember that.
Yeah, so I have a lot of memories with all of them.
We have a really busy week of travel.
We do.
I know. Plane trips, automobiles.
Honestly, now that we don't travel as much, I'm like out of shape.
I always feel like it sneaks up on me. I'm like, why have I never sat in a plane seat before?
Oh, I don't feel that. It's more the packing where I'm like,
I know. It's a different kind of, I feel like before when we were playing, it was very specific. It's like if you're leaving for 4 days, you need all your workout gear, you need 4 workout outfits, you need like the one thing that you're doing.
Workout outfits and I never use them.
They sit. It's just a rotating
we
clean
could do
clothes.
Like packing essentials. My biggest advice to anyone who travels a lot is to have 2 sets of toiletries.
Yeah.
Don't even bother packing those.
No,
just have
true.
2 sets.
I know. It's true. We're going up to Yukon.
We are.
Up. I say that we're, down. Honestly, I don't know what's up and down and all around in this whole entire area, but apparently going up means going to Yukon. That just feels right. We're going
north.
We're going to like a deserted place besides Yukon.
Interesting way of putting it.
Mm-hmm. It's actually, the game's actually in Hartford?
No, it's in stores.
Is it?
Yeah.
That extra 30 minutes is tough.
It is tough.
Dang. We're going up to the Yukon game. We're going to be at the NWSL final. The Wings won the Paige Bueckers sweepstakes.
Kurt Miller got a little petty there, did he?
That was so funny. It didn't come across my desk that he was now the GM for the Dallas Wings. His job just got exponentially easier and better. So congratulations to Kurt and the Wings. And yeah, that's what we're up to.
All right, let's dive in.
Okay.
Support for A Touch More comes from L'Oreal Paris. Later in the episode, we're going to be sharing some super inspiring stories from alumni of L'Oreal Paris's Women of Worth program. We're just letting you know here to build the anticipation, so stick around. First up, we're going to talk about the NWSL Championship. As mentioned, Megan, we're going to the NWSL Championship game this weekend in Kansas City. The finals has been set. The Washington Spirit took down my Bats. Gotham FC is done for the year.
How are you feeling, Sue?
I'm good. I'm
You
hanging
okay?
in there. Yeah, it was. We're going to talk about it. It was a little bit of a devastating loss. We'll get back to that in a second.
Tough.
And the Orlando Pride took down the Kansas City Current. So the finals is set. I'm definitely bummed about the loss. It was brutal to have control of the game pretty much. Gotham had control of the game pretty much the entire game, was winning, 93.5 minutes.
I know. There was so much time and extra time.
Only to have Washington tied up and then ultimately take them down in PKs. But I know you have a lot to say about these games as the soccer eye in the family. So what did you see?
Well, listen, all credit to the Spirit. They are the number 2 team in the league for a reason. 18 wins this year. They've had a lot of come from behind wins. So I want to take nothing away from them. Excellent. They've had some pretty significant injuries. Andy Sullivan being out and Corey Bethune, obviously, their two best midfielders. So they are a little bit hobbled, but to be able to stay in the game for, however many minutes until Hallersfeld scored on a great cross from Morris. But I feel like Gotham really lost this game for themselves more than the Spirit winning it.
I know you feel that way. Tell everybody why.
I feel like some big mistakes were made. I said this last week that I didn't love the lineups and I didn't love the subbing.
Yeah, you don't love it when they win. You don't love it when
they won
lose.
last week, so I can eat that. But I feel like
kidding.
as you advance and as you continue to play better teams, like those mistakes, those tactical mistakes, I felt like from the head coach were really significant. First of all, I would never take Roosevelt out of a game. I don't know really what happened there. Rose and Yasmin Ryan came out of the game, which are like huge players for them for a lot of different reasons. Rose in particular, just having the amount of experience and particularly championship experience at the very highest levels. She can run for like 5 years straight. So I don't know if there was something else going on there. I didn't like that. It wasn't necessarily about like, that the players coming in did bad or whatever, but it was like, why are you taking Roosevelt out? Like, she's your best player. She's been your best player all year. The sub of Jess Carter, presumably, I'm assuming this because she was on a yellow card in the first half, to have another player come in. I'm sorry, it's not funny. To have another player come in and get 2 yellow cards. If you're a sub and you get 2 yellow cards, the only thing worse is like being a sub who is then a sub and gets subbed out. A really bad foul, especially for the second yellow card on Trinity. Like, obviously Trinity's just gonna push past you and run. So that wasn't good. I just feel like at the end of the game, you looked at the lineup and you just think like, is this a team that's gonna win you the game? And I didn't feel like they had that. Obviously, the red card put him in a tough position. Lynn had to go back and play right back. But I just didn't like it. I thought that the tactics from the coach didn't help them at all, and in fact hurt them. So that was tough. And I just feel like they didn't have the either the understanding or the discipline to really close out the game. Like, what are we doing? Are we just packing and booting long? Are we trying to keep possession? I also think they had a number of chances, as did Washington, to score goals, especially in the second half, and really turn the screw and lock the game in. But yeah, that was tough. This has got to sting, I think, for Gotham, because I feel like they had the game.
Yeah. So the Spirit, tied it up. We go into all the overtimes and extra times and all the times.
Which, a great header by Hal Hirschfeld.
Yeah.
I don't know how she was that open, and she damn near won the game about 5 seconds later on, almost the same play. She was unlucky, I feel like, to not score that one, but she's a target. But credit to Hal, that was a great header.
Yeah. So they tied it up. And eventually we got to PKs. So I have my take on the PKs, which was just the goalie saved them all. But tell me,
shout out Aubrey. She's
Aubrey saved them all.
Had the Alyssa magic rub off on her a little bit. They've obviously trained a ton together.
Yeah, she even saved one when she started out going left, only to jump right.
Yeah,
and then saved it regardless. But I know from a tactical strategy standpoint, this is something that goalies work on, something players work on. You kind of know each other in a sense. So when you watched that, what did you see?
Well, immediately what I know about Aubrey is that she's been in the national team system for a very long time. And we spend an unbelievable amount of time and focus and energy on the preparation and the strategy behind it all, for goalkeepers, for what the coaches are doing, for what the support staff is doing, for what the players are doing. So already I'm she's going to be wildly prepared. And it shows. I didn't think the penalties were great. They were not she wasn't digging them out of the corner, saving them upper 90. But
to be honest, what I saw was she saved the first one, right? Then Washington scores. Even as soon as the second kick, I feel like it already got even more mental than a PK is. PKs seemingly are all mental, right? Obviously, there's a physical component, don't get me wrong, but you're a professional, so you're there for a reason. You're chosen to be in those top 5 spots for a reason.
Yeah.
So it's all mental. So even by the time McCall stepped up, who was in the second spot. You could see it was already mental. It was already in their head, like, oh no, she saved the first one. Oh God, they're up 1-0. And then by the time Nightswanger went, it was just, I honestly, you could see from the way she approached the ball. I don't want to say there was no chance, but I wasn't surprised when the goalie, when Aubrey got the third one also. So it seemed very mental watching.
Yeah. I don't want to belabor this point, but Rose Lavelle likely would have taken a penalty kick. So tough. Okay. Yeah. But honestly, penalties are, I've had good times and bad times. And sometimes it just like doesn't go your way. Also, it's like, you know, if you're Washington, you've been in that position before. You've come back before. You have 18 wins on the season. Incredible. You're the number 2 team in the league. You back yourself. You have a lot of confidence. You've scored at the end of the game. You almost scored again. You're like on the front foot. They've got a red card. And so you go into that like, we're at home and we trust Aubrey. And like they had the sort of like good feeling about it. And a lot of times in penalties, that's kind of the thing that means the most. So
the first semifinal game went to the Washington Spirit. They're in the finals, which takes us to our second semifinal game.
Well, hold on. I want to talk about Trinity's yellow card, which came off the back of Bernina's second yellow card. Obviously, she was like setting her up to go down the line. I just love all the shithousery that all of this is. I love all the games within it. I thought it was really funny. I just think it's worth mentioning. She just, there's a great picture of her like standing over, taunting, which she got a yellow card for, taunting and like holding up the card. I just thought it was funny.
And what do you think happened with her and Trinity and Sonnet right after?
At the exact same thing, right? Like Sonnet, first of all, it's first on my team sheet all the time. I love playing with Sonnet. I've always loved playing with Sonnet. Sonnet plays the whole game and then every game within the game. So I think Sonnet was coming over and being like, that's messed up that you're taunting, you know, and sort of doing the same thing. I just loved it. It's like, I love all that like little, you know.
Yeah, the game within the game.
Yeah, the game within the game. I love all the little,
you don't always
like,
catch it watching
trash
soccer.
talking. Yeah, I think, different than basketball. It's like, obviously, the camera's further away. The field's bigger. You don't have a lot of that interaction. You don't get
You're not
close-ups.
going to hear it by accident.
Yeah, the players are further away from each other. You don't get free throws. You don't get all the things. So any moment of drama that I can savor, I do. So I really enjoyed that. But anyways.
So the Washington Spirit moving on to the finals, which brings us to our second semifinal game. As you already mentioned, the Orlando Pride took down Kansas City. The Marta storyline. So we're 1 for 2. And the Marta storyline is still alive, which, you know, I love. I'm Team Marta right now, hardcore.
Same.
So right now, Megan, this is being talked about, this final, as the most anticipated in NWSL history. Do you have a take on that? Are you going to argue 2023 was the most anticipated?
I mean, I want to because I was in it, obviously.
That did have major storylines also.
It did have major storylines. I totally agree with this. The league is the biggest that it's ever been by all measurables, attendance, viewership, a new CBA, a new media deal, like just general excitement around the league. You have, you know, arguably the 3 biggest stars or 3 of the biggest stars in the league and the players that have been performing the best, not just stars, but actually performing the best this year. And Barbara Banda, Trinity Rodman, and obviously Marta. I do think it's blockbuster. You have the 2 best teams in the league. These are the number 1 and 2 ranked teams in the league. Both teams are just really good. I worry a little bit about Washington just not having enough. I mentioned the injuries to Corey Bethune and Andy Sullivan, especially in the midfield, and being able to get their forwards.
Shout out to Mr. Sullivan. I ate breakfast with him like many mornings at the World Cup. Great dude. I believe he's a pilot.
We love the Sullivans.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
much. We love Andy. We hope she's doing well. Orlando playing really well. They're just dangerous. I feel like they obviously Marta, obviously Barbara Banda, but what that does is open up everybody else to operate
It's called
underneath.
Gravity. When players have gravity,
those 2, it's like, now you have both of them together. And they operate off of each other, obviously. Banda much more in behind, but her hold-up play is really good, and being able to play off Marta, like, what? That's like the perfect player for Marta, especially later in her career when she probably isn't covering as much ground as she used to, but still all the skill remains.
Well, her goal, you might say she covered some ground.
Yeah, I know. And then
where does that rank? Can you think of Marta goals? Think of goals in general. I mean, she sat down 3 people, 2 defenders and basically the goalie.
Sat them down. I mean, Marta scored some epic goals against the U.S., so I'm not even sure that was the best one. I was talking to Lori Lindsay during the game. We were just texting, and I was just like...
You were texting...
so much.
This might be a bicker, y'all. You were texting on your laptop, so this is literally what I heard the entire game.
Yeah, I was texting. But we were just marveling at Marta's class and technique. It's just her skill set is just incredible. And honestly, no shade to anyone else, but just better than everyone else. Mm-hmm. And so to watch her obviously play throughout the entire game, but that goal was sensational. First of all,
turns out they needed it.
Yeah, and turns out they needed it with a late penalty, a handball. In the box in the 98th minute of stoppage time. Not the 98th minute, the 98th minute of the stoppage time. There was so much I didn't understand.
Quick math.
So much was happening. That was one of the best goals I've ever seen. To be able to cover that much ground, she put the speed boosters on, which she's always had. I was as I was watching it, first of all, great defending by Barbara Banda as well to put pressure and to have your best player in your forward defending like that in the whatever minute is just incredible and a testament to why they're Shield winners and the best team in the league. But I was thinking in my head, okay, she's gonna either run out of speed. She had one player coming from the back. She obviously, Alana Cook was dropping and defending. And I was it's on her off foot. What's she gonna do here? And then just tap. Goal. I mean, it's just it was such class.
It was amazing.
It was such class. It's I don't know why I'm surprised, because to me, she's the undisputed GOAT in our game. She's by far, in my opinion, the best player that's ever played. And she's just proved why at 38 years old.
Any quick predictions? Who you got?
I think Orlando is the better team.
Okay.
And especially right now, the way that they're playing, the confidence that they have, the chances that they're creating, just the general vibe they had. I mentioned the injuries that Washington has. I think they're a better team. Now, Washington is obviously scrappy and always staying in it. They're in the championship, number 2 team in the league for a reason. But
hold the deep dive. Because we do want to share with everyone that we will be recording a Touch More live. Our next episode will be live in Kansas City on Friday, November 22nd for the NWSL Championship. Like I said, it's a live show at the Austin in Kansas City. We've got some special friends. It's presented by Google Pixel. You can find all the info in the bio of the A Touch More Instagram page. Click the link for tickets. And Megan's going to give more of a deep dive. But right now, you're picking Orlando. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm picking Orlando. Who are you picking?
Gotham. And now we're going to move on.
So, might as well pick the Reign if we're doing
told you.
that.
No, I'm joking. I'm very big on this Marta retirement, finishing her career with a championship. I said it last episode.
Same.
Now that Gotham is not an option, I'm going to go with Orlando. And we've just given the Spirit locker room material.
Yeah,
You're
totally.
welcome.
Put it up on the bulletin board.
You're welcome. Support for A Touch More comes from L'Oreal Paris, who are proudly presenting their 2024 Women of Worth honorees. Like Danielle Umstead, the founder and president of Sisters in Sports Foundation, which is very close to home for us at A Touch More. Sisters in Sports empowers women with disabilities to find belonging in sports and beyond. We at A Touch More, like Danielle, believe that all women belong in sports. Another 2024 Women of Worth honoree is Janavi Rao, the president and founder of New Voters, a youth-led national nonprofit that engages high school students through nonpartisan mentorship to ensure their voices are heard in politics. This work is so important, especially right now. In today's episodes and over the coming weeks, you'll hear directly from several of the unbelievable women in the L'Oreal Paris Women of Worth Alumni Network. We will be sharing their stories, in their words, directly with you. Let's celebrate these women and let them inspire us to make change in our own communities, because they're worth it. Learn more about this year's recipients at womenofworth.com.
Right after the game, I actually had to put it on my computer as I was whacking away from my text messages. The draft lottery came up. So, your thoughts? Dallas Wings secure the number 1 spot in what essentially is the, as you said, Paige Bueckers sweepstakes.
You said that.
I said that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was so good. I just didn't know where it came from. It's so weird. Tell us all your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, thoughts. A draft is a draft. There was all kind of odds and percentages. And as we've talked about numerous times on the pod, the Dallas Wings, because they had essentially Chicago's pick as well, because there would have been a swap had Chicago got the number 1 pick, they actually had the best odds. So for them to get the number 1 pick is not that shocking. But at the same time, if you look at the different tweets, whether it's Enrique's tweet saying, I just fell to my knees. Thank you, Lord.
So funny.
Kurt Miller, we mentioned getting a little petty.
Yeah.
He threw up
spicy.
a Goodwill Hunting. How you like them apples? Because for those that don't know, Kurt was let go by the Sparks just recently and then became the GM of the Wings. So not that surprising that Dallas got it. It really was, like, DC's chances were so low. And as we said, Chicago didn't really have a chance. So I feel like between the Sparks and the Wings, you can make arguments from a pure basketball standpoint that there was really no wrong place for this number 1 pick to go. It probably will be Paige. I do want to say Paige does have a year of eligibility. She would then be a 24-year-old senior. So I don't know if that's a thing. But I want to say that. But if we live in a world where Paige enters the draft this year, from a basketball roster standpoint, both places are kind of set up for success. She would have been teaming up with LA with some great post players, but young post players, so they would have been able to come up together. On the other side, you're with some vets. Enrique's on this team. I mean, talk about a backcourt. And then, of course, Satu Sabali, who will be a free agent or is a free agent. But if Dallas were able to keep Satu there, I mean, right away, that team becomes pretty legit.
I was going to say, give me your way too early take on how good can the Dallas Wings be if Paige
it might be
Bueckers
like
goes
way
there.
too.
I want a way too early hot take.
I think I just said it.
They're winning the championship.
No, I wouldn't say that. I can't even give away too early. But if you want to look at, how about this? If you look at big threes across the league, if Dallas does have Paige because of the number 1 pick, Enrique, who's already there, and they re-sign Satu, that big 3 will be up there with all the other big 3s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's stay with Paige for a second. Take me into the mind of Paige. Obviously, she's going to really just say she's focusing on her college season and
of course,
whatever. And she's generally quite a humble person, but she's obviously going to go number 1 if all things stay the same and she's healthy. You've been in this position. Like, you knew you were going number 1?
No. I mean, like,
but
you
you
don't.
like knew it.
No, you like know, but you don't.
You know, but you don't. But like you've basically been,
As it got closer, I was like pretty certain.
So how are you like going through your final season and like how do you like navigate that? How should Paige navigate this? Like, what's she thinking?
It's a totally different. I mean, so 2002, which was my draft year, all the way back
22 years ago.
Thank you for that. It was the first time they did a lottery. So prior to 2002, it was just the worst team got the number 1 pick.
Okay.
Obviously, that's not sustainable because of tanking and whatnot. So my draft year was the first year they did the balls with the lottery. And I do remember like where I was and the conversation. It was like the fall. The season had already started, but it was like the fall of 2001. So I was in my college season and I was on my way to go lift with the team. And I don't remember who, but the conversation came up and somebody was like, oh, did you see the WNBA draft lottery was selected? I was like, oh, who got the number 1 pick? And they're like, Seattle. And I was just like, oh. And I literally just went about my day and I literally went about my year. I was not thinking about it. I was not worried about it.
You were a little disappointed though, no? Even though it's turned into a great love
yes and
story.
no. I mean, so the other teams were Washington, D.C., they actually had 2 picks in the top 4. I can't remember how that happened, like a trade or something. And then Detroit. And if I'm being totally honest, I was like, well, thank God it's not Detroit. And that was really my only thought.
Okay.
Otherwise, I was like, whatever.
Whatevs. All right.
So, I just moved on with my life. But it's so different now. There's so much more to consider when you look at the teams, when you look at the rosters. One thing I did know with certainty, especially as the draft approached, going to Seattle meant teaming up with Lauren. So I was more so, considering the roster itself, but really just Lauren. I don't even know if I knew who else was on the roster. And I think now, because the game has grown, you're tuning in more. Paige probably has so much more of an awareness of all the teams that were in the lottery, all the cities, all the franchises. Coaches are still being hired. So that's obviously a variable. So I bet for her, who knows where she would have liked to have gone, but I'm sure you're going to be hearing like, oh, I've heard great things about Dallas. If I do come out, if I am the number one pick, of course I'll go there and do my best. It's going to be probably standard PC UConn talk, if I'm being honest.
You guys are good at that. You get immediate training.
But
really
until
there.
that draft, you're totally compartmentalizing. You're not really thinking about it.
She keeps the work too. She keeps,
Same with Caitlin last year.
Yeah.
Like same with everybody, in years prior.
Give us a little rundown of like mock draft, like how you kind of see. I mean, it's very early in the college season. I'm putting you on the spot with all these too early takes on everything. But what do you think?
No, I don't think you can do a mock draft. There's so many variables right now because quick list outside of Paige, you've got AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts, Rory Harmon. Those are 4 and 5 if you count Paige, legit players that we don't know if they're coming out yet. And they would shake up the draft. So to do a mock draft is kind of like whatever. But I feel like I'm going to name some names that all of us can keep our eye on, some seniors. Kiki Iriafen, that's probably the player that would likely go number 2. Anissa Morrow, Tahina Pau, Sedona Prince, and Haley Van Lith. TCU right now, they beat NC State recently.
Saw that.
So they got things popping down there. So keep your eye on them. Georgia Amore, who transferred to Kentucky. She just got a big win as well. And then Sonia Citron, who's from Notre Dame. So just keeping our eyes out. More than anything, I'm keeping my eyes out on these coaches. Now I want to know, who is Dallas going to hire? Is Kurt going to come out of his coaching retirement?
No way.
Yeah. So who are they going to hire? LA, DC, they all have to hire. And then just quickly touch on Atlanta Dream did hire Carl Smesko. And I actually covered Florida Gulf Coast, which is where Coach Carl came from. Had an amazing career there, did very well, turned that program into like a heavy hitter, mid D1 school. Always made the NCAA tournament, always had some upsets. And that's how I got to know him and his program. I covered the NCAA tournament one year when they were in it. And he plays like a Daryl Morey analytical style. He doesn't use the verbiage around it, but his team shoots threes and layups. I was blown away by their practice and the way in which he was executing this. I'm not going to give away all his tips and tricks here, but I noticed him right away, and it's somebody that I wondered if he would ever end up in the WNBA, because I could see it working, I could see it fitting. So,
do you think he has the personnel in Atlanta to fit that style, or is it going to be a little him molding to them?
You're really going early.
I just have questions.
No, this is why you hire coaches now, and why these other teams will probably soon. You're going to have the expansion draft coming up. You're going to have the actual draft. You've got free agency. So he'll get to have input on which players they bring. But it is, to your point, it is a little bit of $1 million question, right? The league isn't so big where you can just, like college, you can just go recruit the players that fit.
Yeah.
And in the WNBA, you don't always have that luxury. So that I will be keeping my eye on. But if you start seeing them sign like a ton of 3-point shooters or even a ton of drivers, because in order to get threes off, the best way to do that is dribble penetration, I wouldn't be surprised.
Drive and kick. What's
Your
the
go-to?
drill called?
Drive and kick.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe I should apply for
the
one of
Jenny
these
drill,
jobs.
drive, kick, pass.
Yeah, drive, kick, pass.
Yeah.
That's what I heard a lot of.
This is actually going to take us right into our final check-in, which is college basketball. Coach Ariam NCD just tied Tara Vanderveer for most wins in D1 college basketball history. Coach Ariam was quoted as saying, 40 years ago, UConn took a chance on me and those players, early on us. We built it out of nothing in a place where they said it couldn't be built. Anytime you create something, you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. And that is very true as somebody who's part of this program. We definitely took a chance on you. I'm glad you pointed that out, buddy. No, I'm joking. It's definitely true. It's something that you never forget, your college experience. And I can only imagine for him and CD to look back on 40 years of ups, downs. I mean, all of it. It's got to be incredible. So we're very excited for him, very excited for CD. And that is why we're going up to Stores, as Megan mentioned. They have a game Wednesday night against, I think, Fairleigh Dickinson. And should be a win, and it should put them over the top. And there's a bunch of us going up there, a bunch of alumni. It's going to be really fun. I'm excited.
It's really special. Congrats to those two. I mean, what he said was really perfect. It's not the dairy farms that are bringing the best basketball players in the country. And
well, if you want to know the story, you can go watch Sue's Places episode 1.
I did watch Sue's Places, and it was very good. No, it really is special. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if it gets a little lost. I feel like it maybe gets, a little bit lost. There's more parity now, and different teams are winning. And but the amount of winning that's happened there, and like the program that they have built, and the legacy that they have for their players moving forward, professional players, winning literally everything all the time, every gold medal, every world championship, WNBA championships, playing overseas. There's so many of you who have been so successful. This is something really special for the both of them, and for their legacy. But honestly, just like they really built it on a dairy farm in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut. And
if I were to,
you should be very proud.
If I were to put a bow on it, yes, their legacy is winning. Yes, their legacy is winning national championships, and yes, their legacy is all the players that have come through and then gone on to be incredibly successful in their own right. But more than anything, if I were to pick one thing that separates them, I think in these 40 years from everybody else, it is this undeniable ability to never be satisfied and never get bored. I can't even, the lack of complacency is, I'm almost like, are you guys real people? What's happening over there? To never, to set a standard and never fall short. And I'm not talking, that's not a win or losses thing. That is, how do we approach practice? That is the same thing that he would get his panties in a bunch about probably in year 1. He's getting his panties in a bunch about in year 40. It's really, that is what separates them.
CD too.
I could do a long list. I mean, it's mostly CD.
Yeah, they drive excellence. They do.
Yes, I could do a whole laundry list, but I think that is the one thing that has separated them.
And that's what separated.
To never get bored, to never be like, okay, we won last year. Like sometimes there's just a natural ease up. Never, ever. If anything, they almost get like they tighten the screws even more.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I think even just, seeing perfectly, obviously being with you, but, having the opportunity experience to just be around a ton of UConn players all the time and some of the very best ever. It's like the moment maybe this is something they all instilled in you, and you're great, so you probably have this in your personality anyways, but it's like the moment you sort of achieve something, it tightens the screw. None of you guys are ever satisfied. So many of you have had such long careers of being excellent for such a sustained period of time. Like that is, people just think like, oh, you're great. And so like, you're going to be great. And as long as you generally put the work in, no, that's not how greatness of, you, Dee, Amaya, Stewie, obviously CD and Gino, we're talking about them. That's not how you sustain that kind of greatness. So they do seemingly like teach you guys this skill to just to never be satisfied. And that goes on to your professional career when, they only have you for 4 years, but you guys all continue to talk about the lessons and the hard things, but the things that made you better. So it is a real testament to their style and their commitment to winning and their sort of like teaching style with you guys.
I just want everyone to know Megan said, Maya, not Amaya. And now we can move on.
What?
Because you were like, you, D, Amaya. But you were saying like, Amaya, a Stewie, a D.
Yeah, I know Maya. Maya Moore.
Vox Creative.
This is advertiser content brought to you by L'Oréal Paris. A heads up that the following story briefly mentions sexual violence. Please take care.
What I know is that you are born worthy.
Today, I'm so honored to introduce you to one of L'Oréal Paris's Women of Worth.
So my full name is Shavantanae Morgie Morningstar Davis, but everyone calls me Star. And I am the founding executive director of the Star Institute.
Each year, L'Oréal Paris launches a nationwide search for 10 extraordinary nonprofit leaders to be named Women of Worth honorees. Each honoree receives $25,000 to support their charitable cause, mentorship from L'Oréal Paris Network, and a national platform to amplify their stories and their work. In 2021, Star Davis was one of these L'Oréal Paris Women of Worth.
Being a L'Oréal Paris Women of Worth honoree has fully changed the trajectory of where the Star Institute is going.
The Star Institute is committed to ending childhood sexual abuse. And this work is very personal to Star.
I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and I said, but when I get older, I'm going to help kids like me. The Star Institute is me making good on that promise.
Now, as an alum, she wants to encourage other leaders to apply to the program.
Do it, and do it unapologetically. Do it with your whole chest out. Do it with your head held high. Do it with knowing that you are worthy. You are worthy.
Learn more about Star Davis and the Star Institute and about this year's recipients at womenofworth.com.
All right. On to the intersection. 60 million people watched Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. We were two of them.
Yes.
I wasn't missing it.
I know, you weren't.
To me, it's a spectacle. I am totally
People wanted to see it.
engaged. I wanted to see what was going to happen. But we had an interesting conversation around what it really tells us and what it tells us about how people view, what it tells us about what networks are going to buy, and then obviously how that connects back to women's sports. I'll start. So one of the things that came up when we were talking about it was just this idea that people will watch anything. In a lot of ways, people will watch anything in men's sports. They want to watch the finals. They want to watch a regular season. And clearly, when it comes to Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, they'll watch an exhibition where who knows if it was rigged or not, like set up. Who knows if there was a script. Like, I'm not going to get into that, but they'll watch something that doesn't have this elite competitiveness or this, like, you know, there's stakes on this. Don't get me wrong. Both guys are making tens to 20s to 30s, $40 million.
Yeah,
so that exists. But it really got us to, this proves that people will watch anything. Because a lot of times in women's sports, what we hear is, you know, the first thing I thought of was actually USA basketball, that we're too good. It's too boring. Nobody wants to watch that. And then there are times where we're like, it's not interesting enough, right? Talking about any sport in women's sports. It's not compelling enough. People don't know it well enough. And it made me think of, ultimately it got me to a Brian Aglerism, which Brian Agler actually has so many isms. To this day, the OG group chat that I'm in, it's literally called The Originals. We just, every now and then,
he has some bangers.
The Brian Aglerisms will come out.
Some bars.
And this one is one of my faves. And we could be arguing about anything. It could be, you know, how we're going to do this on offense or what the pick and roll defense is going to be. And eventually what would happen, and Brian was actually really big on incorporating player voices. He would ask us like, oh, Sue, what do you think we should do? Or Tanisha, what do you think we should do? And at some point when the argument would get going, he would cut us all off and he would say, you can either find reasons to get something done or you could find excuses not to. And that always just like deaded the argument.
It's so good.
And because, you know, you're always in the weeds, like, well, if we do this, then that, and what happens if this and that? He's like, you can either
figure it out,
find a reason to get something done, or you can find excuses not to. And that's my take right now on a platform like Netflix, who showed this fight. Other networks, when they debate on doing stories around women's sports. You can either find reasons to get something done or find excuses. And I think in women's sports, traditionally, historically, it's been about finding excuses. And things like this, and again, I tuned all the way in. We were actually flying home that day. And at first I was like, oh no, we're not going to make it. And then I remembered that when something starts at 8 p.m. when it's boxing, it's not coming on until midnight.
Coming on 3 days later.
So we were right on time. I was all the way tuned in. I love watching stuff like this. But now we have to get to a point where everybody realizes this exists in women's sports as well.
It is like, I'm like thinking about this thing that I always say. It's like, if you totally starve something, but the expectations are that it will grow, like, no, it's not going to do great. If you're, ESPN or any of these other networks who have their property, or any business really, who have women's professional properties, and you don't market them and you don't invest in them and you don't spend the money necessary to get it to the eyeballs of the masses, but then your excuse is that, well, nobody watches it or blah, blah, blah. It's just like, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. And we've been playing great soccer, basketball, hockey, etc. for all this time. The product is actually there. And this is just like, yeah, if you put the marketing dollars behind what turned out to be a terrible experience viewing, because it was just like, it sucked. I mean, the bandwidth was bad. The actual like fight, it just, I don't know if it
I
was
don't think it sucked.
It just like,
I think
it wasn't good.
I know, but that's the point.
It wasn't good. I think
Everybody's
people are unhappy
talking
with
about it.
No,
I know, but that's
I think
the point.
they're talking about it in a different way than what was expected.
The only thing, I think the only part that was tough about it was feeling like, and then Jake Paul afterwards, some of his quotes came out the next day around like, oh, I didn't, I could tell that Mike Tyson was whatever. I didn't want to hurt him, or I don't know if he actually said I didn't want to try hard. He didn't say that, but he came out after like, oh, I didn't go as hard as I could have. I didn't want to hurt the man, which I actually, honestly, I thought that was like out of respect. I understood it, but that's kind of the point. Like, assuming it wasn't set up and it wasn't scripted, which is a whole other conversation. That's kind of the point. Like, you tune in because you don't know what's going to happen, but you see in this case, like the nonsense of it, if you will. Like a 58-year-old who literally almost died recently is going against, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Not like you're crazy. I'm just like,
the point is people talked about it after. Everybody had an opinion after.
I think there was a larger dissatisfaction after.
I know, but there's space for that in men's sports. And women never get the chance to even be disappointed.
Well, of course, absolutely.
But you need all of it.
We're going to invest, You
need the chance at it.
It's just really frustrating. And I understand it's not like in this binary all the time of like Netflix is choosing to invest probably over $100 million in this as opposed to investing, in women's sports. But it's also just like, this is a tried and true product, women's sports. And to see that kind of investment, which, yeah, if you do put that kind of investment, people are going to talk about it because it's all that they've been fed from, a million different sort of sources, whether it's ESPN or social media or getting, the ads on your actual Netflix page or whatever. Like, yeah, people are going to tune in and watch. So if we put that, this is like a case study, and just like, imagine if you put that behind something real and people could actually watch something real, or NBC or whatever it is.
Point. I think my point is,
no, I'm saying it's just frustrating. I'm not saying that like that people didn't watch or that people aren't talking about it and it can be deemed maybe a success. But I'm like, what's the definition of success then? That we like trot out grandpa and to be in a boxing match only to have the younger guy go, well, then I felt bad. Well, you didn't feel bad when you signed up to fight a 60-year-old. It's just like bizarro. It's just in an upside down. Honestly, it's just bizarro. And it's like, it's almost, that's the point. The frustrating part.
But you watched.
You made me watch.
My point is, you wouldn't have watched it?
I don't know. But that's not the scenario. I can just blame it on you now.
My point is, women's sports for so long have had, when we go into a pitch meeting, have had to have the perfect story in order to get looks at it. And my point is, this proves it doesn't have to be perfect. You can have all kinds of stories pitched, all kinds of sporting events pitched. And in men's sports, they'll take the risk on it.
It is true, but it doesn't have to be true. I mean, is that what you're saying? It doesn't have to be true for women that we have to have the perfect story.
Yeah. This proves that people tune in regardless when you create the storyline or there's a dynamic, or obviously the storyline kind of created itself because of who the individuals are. And I think women's sports, we need the opportunity to showcase all of it, not just the perfect story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the frustrating part about the underinvestment all the time in it with the unrealistic expectations. is like, yeah, you're going to trot out this fight that's actually not very good, but because you invested in it, it's going to succeed. And then you can just use that as like, well, see, people want to see it. When actually there was a way better fight on the undercard, which we did watch, the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fight. That was really good. The cut on the eye was tough for me.
A lot.
Was it a headbutt, Sue?
I mean, I don't know the rules. It looked like a headbutt.
It looked like she was getting in there.
2 and 3 headbutts.
Yeah. I don't know all of the rules. I actually found that it felt hard to like push her off all the time because I don't know. Honestly, they always just look so tired. And anytime I wrestle for longer than 3 seconds, I get really
When's the last
tired.
time you wrestled?
I don't know. Sometimes even when I just try to push you, it's like I can't. You're stronger, so then I'm like I'm exhausted already. But that was actually a really good fight. I would have preferred to see. And honestly, I think
what I don't get is like,
and like the audience would have preferred to see something real more than what they saw. It's like you turn in because it's like a car crash, basically. You're like rubbernecking because it's like I want to turn into the spectacle. But I think it'd be better to tune into something real.
I think it's entertainment, and a lot of things fall under the category of entertainment.
Okay.
But yeah, I think back to the Taylor Serrano fight. I mean, I forget the exact percentage, but Serrano like took and landed way more punches, and that's where I'm just like, did the headbutt and the fact that she was bleeding, and then she was able to like, and then Katie Taylor was able to get more in there. Did that play a role in the scorecard? We need to bring on a boxing expert.
I never understand how boxing is.
The eye test told me
scored.
Serrano won, but what do I know?
It's kind of like gymnastics. I'm always like, what's happening?
Yeah, or fencing. A lot of arbitrary stuff happening.
Yeah.
No, but it was a great fight. We did have fun watching all of it, and I'm glad I stayed up. Barely, but I did stay up.
Barely.
I took one little nap.
You did. You had to set
I set
an
my alarm.
At one point when you woke up,
I was like, is it over?
And you were like, you didn't wake me up. And I was like, it's not even started yet.
Oh,
You
thank
thought
God.
I didn't wake you up.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to miss like the walkout songs. What'd you think of the walkouts, real quick? Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
I mean,
and then do we want to talk about Mike Tyson's butt cheeks, or we're just gonna let that ride?
oh, that was the best part of the
That
whole
was
thing.
by
That
far
was
the best part. I caught that live. I was like, oh.
That was so funny. That was just like next level funny, just ridiculous. That was like the insanity of it all. And also the and back to what I'm saying. I'm just like, this is available to watch, but like, whatever.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I get it. We're arguing 2 different points.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I will probably tune into the next one.
No, it can't be a next one.
The question did come up in my mind. No, like Jake Paul, I watched when he fought Nate Robinson. I don't know the names of all the other boxers, like Tommy Fury or something. Like I've watched pretty much all of them because it is interesting. But after this one, this probably was the first time where it's like, okay, how many more exhibitions, right? Where I know it's not a real fight per se.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're real, but there's always like an age difference or somebody's semi-retired or fully retired. Like he probably needs to, this is my recommendation. He probably needs to fight, I don't know what to call it, like a real boxer or like an actual, somebody in the middle of their career. Like one time and then maybe go back to more of like the exhibition of it all.
But I guess that's just what it is. He's like a,
I don't know though.
he's like an
kind of
influencer fighter. So he's just going to
like
like
he
do
called
the
out
spectacle.
Canelo. I mean, he knows what he's doing, man. He knows what he's doing. Because if he fights Canelo next month, I'm tuning in. I don't know what this says about me, but
Yeah, Canelo would be much more
he called him out.
intriguing.
Yeah.
In a real fight. But
All right.
yeah,
That's that. Okay.
the rant is over.
All right, you all hear us talk a lot on this show about the athletes we admire, but sometimes it can go by fast. So we wanted to stop and take a dedicated moment to talk about our Shouts and Flowers presented by L'Oreal Paris.
This time on Shouts and Flowers, I am shouting out, in my opinion, the undisputed best player ever in Marta. She has been through so many iterations of the game, of her own career, whether it be on the national team, her time in Sweden, playing in obscurity, to being on the biggest stage, like so many moments for so long. I can remember her back in 2004 being the best player in the tournament. I think you might have gone to that.
I was at that
gold medal game.
She salsa danced on y'all.
Yeah, she was so good. To being in just like some of the biggest moments of heartbreak. Brazil has never won a major championship, but she has just always been this incredible star and ambassador for the game. And I think this game in particular, I just was so happy for her. This moment, her class shining through so much, getting to play in a final. She's been in Orlando for a very long time. She could have left, I'm sure, numerous times, but has really kind of set up shop there. So no matter the result, I'm just really happy for her. And I'm like really, really grateful that we all get to see this moment and experience this moment with her. I obviously can imagine it means the world to her, but to be able to witness greatness in this way, in a final, in what has been, the biggest, baddest, best NWSL season ever. Thank you, Marta. You're the GOAT, and we're rooting for you.
She's in an elite company of people where you just have to say their first name, and you know who they are. Marta. All right, before we go, we're going to leave you all with a touch more.
Just a touch more, a little bit. Just a touch more.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, Megan, but the unrivaled coaches have been announced.
Absolutely did.
We've got Phil Handy, who I love. We can circle back to that in a second. Adam Harrington, Andrew Wade, Nola Henry, DJ Sackman, and Teresa Weatherspoon. I'm really happy for Teaspoon just to get right back into it. And I think when I see all these names, to be honest, my first thought, that was my first thought. My second thought was, well, which ones are getting WNBA jobs? Because this feels like a stepping stone to that. And I actually got to work with Phil in Seattle my final 2 years. He would just come up for like a couple weeks, like 1-2 weeks at a time, check in. And I just really enjoyed picking his brain. I really enjoyed working with him. I think he has so much experience to bring to the WNBA. So I would love to see him in our league. But really, any of these names. Some of them already have WNBA experience. So I think that's really cool.
I'm really excited about it. I love the idea of having like big name coaches and having people. I mean, part of it is like, yes, unrivaled. It's going to be fun. It's going to be entertainment, whatever. But this is like players' off seasons where they're trying to get better, hone their skills, and continue to take next steps in their skill set and in their career. And so to have that is really really smart by Unrivaled, I think, but also just really cool for the players and for the coaches. Like you're going there and you're like doing work and it's going to be meaningful and you're going to have like, great personalities along with it. And yes, I echo your sentiment about Teaspoon. That's super cool that she's going to be involved in that. I can't imagine she doesn't get a job pretty quickly. If not this year, the next year. So.
All right. The PWHL is going to be featured in the EA Sports game NHL 25. It's their second season. It starts at the end of November. We know you guys have been inquiring about this league. I am excited for them to be in the game because you could probably speak to this too with soccer. In basketball, I definitely noticed, not some crazy jump in attention, but I definitely noticed conversations that, maybe a fan would come up and have with me when we started to get put in the NBA games. So this is a really good sign, I think, for the league overall. It just gets you in like that fabric. It's a video game, I know, so it's for gamers, but it just gets you in like that cultural fabric that all sports leagues need to be in to have success.
Oh, I totally felt this in soccer. Particularly with young boys being like, played your team. Or like, this is your rating on FIFA. It's a way, honestly, for people to get to know the league and actually like understand all of the players because you're playing them. But then it's like one of these little like credentializers or like cool factor where it's like, sports and video games like go hand in hand and it like means something. So this is really cool. Also very excited for the start of the second season.
Yeah.
I
know we got to check a game out.
I know.
Yeah, we definitely got to go.
Yeah, really excited about this. And this is really smart from the PWHL and the NHL to get these teams in the game. This is dope.
Yeah.
Excited about this one.
Next up, Megan has a new partnership she would like to talk about. If you haven't noticed, we have been drinking from some new mugs today.
Yeah, for everybody watching on YouTube, I can't really tip it over. I'm going to tip all my stuff. Oh, I guess I can.
Doing a quick zoom.
But I've partnered with a really cool company called Felt and Fat. Our origin story is just like very natural and organic. I found them on Instagram. I was in the market for some new mugs. We have been drinking out of these mugs in Seattle for
years.
6 years or something. And we like finally connected. Really dope company out of Philly. They just opened a brand new warehouse in the Kensington neighborhood, which is, I think, traditionally like a manufacturing industrial neighborhood in Philly. That has been hit really hard by just manufacturing in general, leaving the country, but also the opioid crisis. But they've set up shop there. They just have a super cool, workforce. They hire formerly incarcerated people. There's like a bunch of gay people. It's really open and welcoming. I did a little tour of it and got to like get my hands all in there. And this is the Aura collection. So there's this colorway and then there's the other colorway coming out for the holidays. So it's kind of just like a fun little side project for me. I'm getting my little creative juices going. And now that I'm retired, I have more time for stuff like this. So these are now in our house.
Speaking of juices, Thanksgiving's next week.
Oh, what are you excited about?
All of it.
All of it?
All of it.
What's your favorite thing on the plate?
Man, my favorite? Well, it's sweet potato pie, but this is going to already start a whole conversation on, do you call it sweet potato pie or sweet potato casserole? I grew up calling it sweet potato pie. It's just the sweet potato with the marshmallows, and then you cook. Some people call it, what do you call it?
I think sweet potato pie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a huge feature in our
I know,
in
which
our
is
house.
insane to me that it wasn't.
I feel like
It's
it was.
by far my favorite. And
And
then
then
I would
have
say,
to check with Mammers on this one. I feel like it's sweet potato pie.
okay. A lot of people say casserole. In my experience, the divide has been if you come from a black household or a white. I don't know if that's a hot take, but that's been my experience.
Pie is white and casserole
Yeah.
is black.
That's what I learned in college the minute I got there.
Yeah.
They were like, what are you talking about?
Maybe we need to do
and I was
a
like, what are you talking
poll on this. What are you talking about?
about? So that's my favorite dish.
Really?
Yeah. And then I would say a close second is stuffing. But it has to be like some form of honestly, the giblet stuffing is the best. It has to have like a sauce. It has to have some meat in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
sausage
favorite.
Stuffing. Oh
What
my
about
gosh.
you? I know my least too, but I'll get to that in a second.
I mean, I love the gravy.
Gravy. I knew it.
I love the gravy because you can put it on everything. Also,
It's fine.
my mom makes this like,
Are you going to say like lasagna? Are you
no,
one of those?
it's like a bit. I don't know if it's called a beignet. It's not a beignet. It's not like a dough thing. It's like this like spread relish kind of thing that's just like super garlicky. I think it's like garlic and parsley and olive oil maybe. It is so good with everything. Because, turkey is
Like garlic bread?
Turkey, not offering much. Mashed potatoes, you need something with it and on it. So it's like
disagree.
this thing that you can then just sort of like put on other things.
Yeah,
but
it's
I
called
think
salt.
no, this is better. I think the
Someone's under seasoning.
I think the gravy is the is the
No, I
thing
know you like your gravy.
for me. What's your least
I
favorite?
would say my least favorite, cranberry sauce, see ya. I don't even get it.
Don't eat it.
Blech. And then green bean casserole.
Nah.
But people love it.
I'd rather have just a nice salad.
What? There's also salad. You don't have to choose.
But
I've never
as
understood
the
green bean
veg.
casserole. It's like, what is it? It's like a can of soup and then you just
Mushroom soup. and
Yeah.
then- yeah. Listen, it's not for me either. A good string bean with garlic in there though. That and shallot.
What's your least favorite? We're on to least now.
Least favorite. Yeah, the cranberry sauce. I don't need it, and I don't want any of the white meat. It's just
white
you got to
meat's
hack that down. It is so
boring.
dry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
And then I'll go apple pie warm with ice cream. But I'm big on hot cold contrast. Like I'll have a Belgian waffle with ice cream. It's like hot cold. I'm in.
Okay. Yeah, I do like an apple pie. I like the pumpkin pie.
Yeah. Pumpkin pie's good.
At this time of year only.
Yeah.
The apple pie is hard to beat though.
Yeah. Maybe it is sweet potato casserole. I see the point.
I don't know.
I'm calling it pie for the rest of my life though.
We have one last thing before, and it's going to be a little surprise to you.
God.
It was so fun to see our very own little Sue Bird as a clue in the New York Times Connections. You loved that.
Yeah.
I think everyone loved seeing it. We got so many texts. We still continue to get them. But we went to the source to get some more insight into how Sue's Connections cameo came about. So listen up.
Hi, it's Winna. I write the connections puzzles for the New York Times. Big fan of Sue's, obviously one of the all-time greats, and inspiration behind the category Blank Bird that ran in a connections puzzle the other day. The other members of that group were Big, Early, and Lady. I wanted to make a woman-centric board and was thinking a lot about the movie The Substance, where one of the characters played by Margaret Qualley is named Sue. So I was really excited to tie these references together. There's also the words substance and DEMI, Demi or Demi for Demi Moore, as well as an exercise workout theme happening. Big fan of Sue and Megan. Thank you so much.
Aw, that's really sweet. I love that. So much thought.
I know.
I mean, it's not that surprising. If you play connections often, they're clearly making connections that you're like, what? So
You're telling me the amount of times that I use all my 4 and don't get any. Tough.
So it's actually really great to hear just kind of the genesis of it all.
Pulls it
yeah,
all.
and how they pull it all together.
Yeah,
that was
pulled
awesome.
it all together.
So yeah, thank you, Winna, for calling in. That's super dope.
So cool.
Yeah.
And that's it for this episode, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks to L'Oreal Paris for their support. What does "because you're worth it" mean to you? Where do you draw a feeling of worthiness from? We heard from Star Davis of the Star Institute early today that worthiness is something we're born with, something it is our duty to help others feel. L'Oreal Paris knows that every single woman, every person, is worth it. L'Oreal is there to remind you of that in whatever way you need, whether it's inspiration from our Women of Worth honorees or the simple beauty product that lets you shine. L'Oreal's got your back. When you know you're worth it, you inspire others to know that they're worth it too. Learn more at l'orealparis.com.